I consider this to be one of the biggest risks that all early retirees face. And frankly, I'm shocked that not more people talk about it. So let's dig in. I'd say go for a walk, but as you can see, I'm here at this ski resort and I'm currently standing on about 6 feet of snow. So each step I take, I break through the snow. So I'm gonna have to stand here and let's have a conversation as we enjoy this beautiful background. So what is the biggest risk that I think early retirees face, right? You've spent your life saving up your money, investing it wisely. You've done your checks, you've double checked your math. You have as much clarity as you can that you're going to be able to retire, that you have sufficient funds, that you're not going to run out of money before you run out of life. Hopefully you've had those numbers double checked by a professional, a fee-only financial advisor or an accountant, because you want to have as much clarity and certainty as possible. But what's the biggest risk? The biggest risk is what I call sequence of return risk. And that's a big sounding phrase, but in its essence, it basically means if you get really bad market returns the first couple years of retirement, it hurts a lot more than if you got those same negative market returns maybe midway through your retirement or certainly at the end of your retirement. It has much less of an impact. And so why is that? Why is bad returns? A lot of people would say, well, I'm indifferent whether it happens at the beginning or the end or at the end. But let's say, just for easy math, you saved up $1 million for retirement, and you're planning on taking out $40,000 a year from that account, $30,000 a year from that account. In addition, you've got Social Security coming in. In addition, above that, you might have some rental income property or something. So the sum of all of those add up to a retirement that feels comfortable for you and your spouse. And let's say, unfortunately, you're unlucky and the market does a big correction, right? Like the folks that retired in 2007, 2008, boy, that was a scary time. That was a 60% drop in the market, and that's a life-changing event. A lot of people got scared. They may have made an asset allocation change at the bottom and unfortunately locked in those losses. So that sequence of return risk. So, you know, what's the likelihood you're going to hit a 2007, 2008, or really I should be saying 2008, 2009 financial crisis in the first couple of years of your retirement? Well, you know, crazy things, scary things have a way of happening a lot more often than what we think. So is the likelihood of that, you know, 50%? Certainly not. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, mine would be cracked. Is the likelihood of that close to 10%? You know, usually during every investment cycle, which tends to be 7 to 10 years, there's at least one market correction of over 20%. So I think the likelihood of a 20% correction in some of the first years of your retirement, I think the likelihood of that happening in any given year is probably greater than 10%. So it's definitely something important that you think about, right? Sequence of return risk, and you know, I see almost nothing on YouTube on it. When I searched on YouTube to see how many videos were done, boy, they had really low views. So this video may not do well, but it's important for me to share this with you in the hopes that you do see it and you can be thinking about it. So what do you do to prepare for that? You know, there's some tools that professionals have to help them help soon-to-be retirees. And, you know, if you've already retired, it's not too late to think about this. Where instead of waiting for the event to happen and then asking, what do I do? The real question is, and the reason I'm sharing this video is, how do you prepare for that now before it happens, right? There is a market correction taking place now. As I record this, people are saying that the US is likely going to enter a recession. I don't know. So it may have already begun. Clearly, 2022 was a negative year in the market. But as much as you can, you want to prepare for this ahead of time. And if you haven't thought about sequence of return risk, if you haven't incorporated this in your plan yet, The best time to have done this, it's like the saying with the tree, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time is today. It's the same thing with planning for your retirement and knowing that you're prepared if something scary like this were to happen. So if you haven't done it, I encourage you to reach out to a professional. It's not going to be crazy expensive to have this done. One of the tools that they'll use is what's called a Monte Carlo simulation, which is just a statistical tool that tries to replicate, well, you know, you and I each have one life to live, and we see how that life is going day by day. But what this tries to do is model it and come up with hundreds, if not thousands, of different scenarios that are kind of playing out financially what the financial results and the hits on your portfolio might be. And I'm probably not doing as good of a job as I could at explaining it, but imagine if you know, the lotto ping pong balls that get, you know, the air gets blown and the announcer on television pulls out one of those ping pong balls. Imagine if that had the market return in it. You know, each year had a market, each of those ping pong balls had the market return for 1 year. But instead of it being tied to that year, there's no year on it. And so these balls are spinning around, and you pick one out and say, okay, this year you're up 10%. Next year you're up 20%. The following year you're down 20%, etc. And the ping pong balls keep getting putting in. Well, imagine that on steroids, and that gives you an idea of about what the Monte Carlo simulation is. And so you can look through and say, well, gee, what happens if I have a bad year this way? Am I prepared for that? You know, what can I do? And ultimately where you come down is what your asset allocation is, right? You want to make sure that you have an asset allocation that you can stick with in the scary times, because that's what protects you in the scary times. You know, during a big market correction, the early days of COVID, you know, people were calling up their financial advisors and saying, hey, what are you doing to protect me from this, right? They're hoping, what they're hoping, the financial advisor said is, well, you know, we saw COVID starting in China and then spread through Europe, so we moved you to cash. But very few financial advisors are going to do that, and I don't think it's a good idea for financial advisors to do that. That's called timing the market, and it's highly unlikely that timing the market is going to work. So the tool that you have to protect yourself from those scary times, and the answer that many of those financial advisors were given to their clients when they say, what are you doing to protect me from these scary moments? The true answer to that is, what we're doing to protect you from that is the work that we did for you 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, making sure that we got your asset allocation right so that you can weather the storm, so that you can stay the course during the scary times. And I call that a strategic decision. So the strategic decisions are what protect you in scary times. And then there could be some small tactical changes, right? Based on COVID. You know, if you saw COVID coming, you know, certainly airlines were an industry that got hurt, you know, anything that required people to assemble, right? You know, a tactical example might be, you know, this is actually good news, as horrible as COVID was. It provided, let me say it this way, it provided a tailwind for some of the tech providers. For instance, Apple computers, you know, really did very, very well during the early days of the pandemic when we all got sent home. We had to buy new technology. Many people didn't have laptops, or the laptops they had were old. So it actually provided a tailwind for companies like Apple. So those are small tactical changes that you can do. But really the thing that protects you is your asset allocation. And just wrapping up, it's your asset allocation, getting that right, making sure you can stay with it during the scary times. It's your asset allocation that protects you from these scary times. And that's something that you can work with your financial advisor on. Now, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing education. I want to put this on your radar screen. So if you're not thinking about this yet, you are. So I hope you found this video helpful. Before I go there, before I wrap up, if you're not working with a financial advisor, I do encourage you to, again, this Monte Carlo simulation is not crazy expensive to have done. by a professional, I encourage you to Google fee-only financial advisor and find somebody to work with on that. So with that, I'll start wrapping up. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor, hit the like button. It really does make a difference. And leave me a comment and let me know what you found helpful in this video, maybe topics that you'd find helpful in the future. And getting back to that like button, how it helps is it just helps the algorithm put my videos in front of the right people so that I can help as many people as possible. Hopefully it was easy for you to find this video. Hopefully YouTube recommended it to you, and hitting the like button makes it easier for other people to find it that way as well. So until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Use this time wisely.